This video brought to you by Star Trek Fleet Command.
Share your pain. Share your pain with me. And gain strength from the share.
This was the moment. This was the moment that I knew I would hate Star Trek V: The Final Frontier, but it was also an indicator of why this movie, and ultimately William Shatner, almost destroyed the Star Trek movie franchise.
Have any Star Trek V tapes left?
Where is the Star Trek V video?
With the success of Star Trek: The Voyage Home, there was a lot of expectations and pressure to make the next movie another box office hit. Thanks to contractual obligations, William Shatner was placed in the role of director, with the story being written by himself and Lowry. The actor turned director had a lot of high expectations for this film and, shall we say, grandiose ideas. When we look at Shatner as a director, one of the many things that William has gone on record claiming is that Star Trek V was extremely underfunded. While this may be true for his vision needed to complete the project, he was receiving over $30 million. It's important to remember that Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home only had a budget of $21 million, and Star Trek III: Search for Spock had a budget of only $16 million. So the two prior, most beloved movies by legacy fans were filmed with significantly less money than he was working with, but somehow he was still having a problem. Which, when you consider money and problems, this does lead into another issue, namely the visual effects.
Running is useless, Lee. I've upgraded my ship since our last dance.
If you're a fan of the channel, you know one of my favorite Trek story arcs is that of the Dominion War. Now, thanks to Star Trek Fleet Command, I can have that experience in the palm of my hand. With Fleet Command, I can be a part of the Star Trek multiverse and craft my very own Dominion War arc. By sending away teams on expedition missions to the edge of space, acquiring resources for developing new improvements, forging alliances, and earning renown through the faction system, I am not only able to unlock new ships and iconic characters, but experience a truly unique and historic Star Trek story that's of my own making. With Star Trek Fleet Command, you'll be able to research technologies and build your own base so that you can explore strange new worlds and meet strange new civilizations. It is finally possible to go where no one has gone before, and it's all in the palm of your hand. To start your amazing Trek story, download this game by clicking the link below. For me personally, I absolutely love the ability to craft my own ship and fleet. I chose my own crew from the vessel, any that I wanted from the Star Trek universe, and then went out and explored. I loved experiencing the universe that was made for me in this game and going through the story that's updated every month. Not to mention teaching normies a lesson or two when they tried to attack me or attack someone weaker. Star Trek Fleet Command is free to download, and if you get in on this now, you'll be eligible for the Michael Burnham giveaway. Reach level 5 today and unlock Origins Burnham. Reach level 10 by February 10th, and you'll be given the shards to tier up your Origins Burnham to rank 2. It's just that easy. Download now to see what kind of giveaways you could be getting today. Star Trek Fleet Command. Go ahead, just do it. Supporting the sponsors supports the channel, and it's free. Come on. Most agree that the visuals in Star Trek V are resoundingly bad, especially compared to the ones that came before it. Historically, Trek's visual component had been crafted by Industrial Light and Magic, a very well-known visual effects company, and it had worked out amazingly for the franchise and honestly set a standard that audiences come to expect. Unfortunately, Shatner felt that the company wasn't up for the job. According to him, ILM's A team was busy on Indiana Jones and the B team was busy on Ghostbusters 2. We're going to come back to that in a minute. But suffice it to say, at least to William, this meant that they would not be getting anything near the quality that they expected. So what was Shatner to do? Well, he sent out a request to competing companies to create an interesting and unique version of God. No, really, he wanted to see God. And ultimately went with a firm known as Associates and Farron. Now, to be fair, even Paramount Picture executive producer Ralph Winter, who would become known for the Star Trek movie franchise, admitted that there was the belief that ILM was taking advantage of Paramount, and so a move away from them wasn't too controversial. Arguably, it may have even been encouraged. Additionally, Associates and Farron received high praise for what they did in Little Shop of Horrors, and Farron himself used low-tech, low-cost methods to create what many thought were visually appealing effects. Unfortunately, these effects really wouldn't translate on the big screen and would be one of the weakest elements in the movie, but they wouldn't be as weak as the story. Ultimately, the Star Trek V plot is a monument to the ego of William Shatner and, well, searching for God. But if you can believe it, this script, the one that we get to see on the big screen, was a compromise. The plot was never meant to be what we got. Hell, according to Shatner, the script that we got was the biggest mistake he ever made, compromising. He should have stuck with what he thought was going to be good. You see, originally, Kirk's actor wrote the original story of The Final Frontier to be that the crew, the Enterprise crew, literally finds Satan masquerading as God, to which all of them then betray Kirk, including McCoy and Spock, which, by the by, was a proposition that neither the science and medical officers' actors would ever accept. But ironically, it was something that Shatner really wanted. So, we have an untested visual effects company handling a science fiction franchise as big as Trek, a compromised script that took the worst aspects of what the director wanted and then what the executives wanted, as well as tension between the actors over a story arc glorifying Kirk at the expense of everyone else. It's hard to believe that other mistakes could be made, but they did make at least one more. Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home released the day after Thanksgiving to large fanfare. Another Thanksgiving release was considered, and in fact may have been great, but the date was ultimately moved to June, in the summer.
Ghostbusters 2.
We're the best! We're the beautiful! We're the only Ghostbusters! We're back!
Who you gonna call?
Remember what I had said before, remembering those two movies? You see, by setting it in June, Star Trek V went directly against Batman and Ghostbusters 2. Two movies that people were very excited to see, at least initially. So even when it comes to the release date, the production crew wasn't batting 100. If you ask people who have studied catastrophes, they will tell you that generally it's not one thing that goes wrong. It's a series of small things that lead to a major event. It really is easy to blame William Shatner for all of these failings, and he did play a large part in all of them, don't get me wrong. But it's also important to remember that the Paramount Pictures executive team, as well as the writers and crew, also contributed to the dismal figures that Star Trek V would see. The failure was a team achievement, and of that there is no doubt. But what many will find curious is that we need to put this into context. The Final Frontier did make money, a lifetime grossing of $52 million as of right now. That only makes it the 12th lowest movie out of 14 overall. That's if we include the re-release as a part of that number. It's the 12th of 13 if you don't. Hell, it didn't even have the lowest box office opening. It came in 9th, beating out The Voyage Home, Search for Spock, Wrath of Khan motion picture, and the re-release of the motion picture I'd mentioned before. The Final Frontier opening was $17 million, while the lowest would be the re-release of the motion picture at $220,000. And excluding that, it would be the motion picture opening that only got $11 million. The real problem with Star Trek V and why it almost destroyed everything was honestly timing. When we look at The Next Generation, one thing to take into consideration is the reason why it is revered as the most loved Trek series in ratings is largely due to the era it was introduced. Right place and right time. The Next Generation wouldn't have worked in the era of Deep Space Nine, Voyager, or even today. And with that in mind, Star Trek V nearly destroyed Star Trek, at least the movie franchise. Many Paramount executives, as well as those who worked with Star Trek, felt that this could have stopped any further attempts to make movies. If it wasn't for avid fans and those within the cast and crew that really wanted to see another movie come out, we may have never gotten one. Ironically, during that time, the more I researched, the more it seemed like there was still a want for Trek to survive in television form, and people wanted to see it on the big screen again. Many attempted to pitch ideas for the new movie, from a Starfleet Academy to Walter Koenig's, Chekhov, suggesting Starfleet joins the Romulans against the Klingons, and many others. Ultimately, executives and those in the know would settle on Undiscovered Country and addressing racism. The movie would be a large success in comparison to The Final Frontier and restart the fervor for Star Trek both in television and in movies. Whether some like the direction it's ultimately taken, the rise of Undiscovered Country would be a major contributing factor to Trek that is on television, as well as Trek that is in the movie theaters, and even streaming services today. In the end, the question comes back to, did William Shatner almost destroy Star Trek? Well, not all of it. He did almost destroy the movie universe and future films. But to be fair, he never could have done it without the Paramount Pictures executive team.